Hey, my friend, Kirby here of KirbyAndersen.com. Hey, I want to talk to those of you who are blessed to be parents today. And for those of you who aren't, stick around anyway because these things are going to apply to you as well. But for those of us who are parents, you know as well as I do that we want the best for our kids. There isn't anything short of sin that we wouldn't do for our kids to be able to give them the advantage that we want them to have in this life, to be able to experience everything that life has to offer. I mean, we will sacrifice and work so hard to be able to give them the best education, to be able to provide great experiences and great opportunities, to help them to meet people who are really going to help them to move forward in life. And all of those things are great. But you know what's even better than that? Sometimes it's just taking the time to download simple, common sense principles that really aren't all that common. And maybe it's just taking the time to share with them little street smarts that you have picked up along the way. And for that reason, I want to talk with you today about 4 simple habits that you can instill within your child to help him or her get promoted faster than their peers, to help give your child the winning edge and to experience everything that this life has to offer them. You know, years ago, I picked up a little book called Life's Little Instruction Booklet. And this thing was fantastic. Every page just had one little maxim, one little principle on there that some dad put together to share with his kids. And they were great. Many of them were universal. And I thought, you know what's only better than this book? It'd be better if I wrote this for my kids. And so that's exactly what I did. I put together a little book of all of those little quips and quotes and principles that had been so important to me to share with them as they were growing up. And I wanted them to have that in remembrance of me later on in life and to pass those things on to their kids. Just little things that I had learned from my dad or that I had learned along the way that I thought, man, this makes a huge difference. And sometimes we don't realize how big of a deal it really is. Give you an example. One of the things that I put down in this, I share with my boys early on as they were growing up. And it was a little thing that my grandpa had shared with my dad. My dad taught it to me. And it was simply this: if your hair is combed, your fingernails are clean, and your shoes are shined, you're dressed up. Isn't that great? It is. I think it's just awesome because it just works. It doesn't have to do with having a certain caliber of clothes. It doesn't have to be, you're making this huge fashion statement. It's all about conscientiousness and so many other things rolled up into that. But here's another deal that I passed on to all of my kids early on, and they'll all be able to tell it to you because I pounded this in. And this is what I want to share with you today. These are the things that helped my kids get promoted faster, and they will work for you as well. So it basically boiled down to this: to get promoted faster than your peers, do these 4 things. Number 1, show up for work 15 minutes early. Number 2, stay at work 15 minutes late. Number 3, smile. And number 4 is say yes, ma'am, yes, sir, or no, sir, no, ma'am. Ta-da! That's it right there. Now, just in case you're a little underwhelmed, trust me, this stuff works. And all of these things have their own benefits in and of themselves, but it's the reasons behind these things that really is what makes the difference. So let me just tell you why these things work. It's because life favors those who, number 1, do more than what's expected. And you know that right off the bat. Man, I tell you what, if we could just help our kids to understand this principle. How many times have you heard, particularly like in a horse race, the Kentucky Derby was just held not that long ago, and so often you hear as all of these horses are racing right up until the last moment, neck and neck, such and such wins by a nose. It's so true. They've all been working so hard, but there can only be one winner so much of the time. And so much of the time it's just because of a little bit more. That's true whether we're running a foot race, or whether we're applying for a job that 100 other people are applying for. So many times the people who really win out the very best that life has to offer them, it boils down that not that they're miles ahead of everybody else, but they're just willing to do a little bit more than what's expected. And if you want your child to stand out from the masses, particularly in this highly competitive world, teach him or her to do more than just the bare minimum, to do more than just the basic expectations, to go the extra mile. And the next two reasons here on why these things are so important are great examples of this as well. Number two, life favors those who manage their time wisely. You see, the first of two of these four habits have to deal with time management skills. And most people, you know, they show up to work at the very last minute and they are bolting out the door as soon as that clock comes to 5 o'clock or whatever time quitting time is. And you got to teach your child, don't just do just the bare minimum. Again, when you show up early and you stay a little bit later, it is going to put you miles ahead of everybody else, and it makes you stand out to your employers. And you're the ones who are going to get the promotion when it comes available, because it is showing that you're conscientious, it shows that you're reliable, it shows that you're there for the overall organization and not just there for the bare minimum. You're disciplined, you're diligent, and what employer doesn't want more employees like that? So it's so important that they learn how to manage their time wisely, not only to know what time they should show up, but to be disciplined enough to show up a little bit early and willing to stay just a little bit later than everybody else. And finally, number three is life favors those who get along with other people. This is probably my favorite out of all of these things. It just does. The last two habits of these four have to do with interpersonal skills, how we relate to other people. America's first billionaire was John D. Rockefeller, and he was quoted as having said often that he would pay more for a person who had the ability to get along with other people than any other trait, than any other skill, than any other characteristic. You say, why? Why would he, who could hire anybody that he wanted, the very best of the best, why would this be first and foremost? Well, you know, if you've ever been a boss, if you've ever been a supervisor, if you ever led a team, you know the one thing that leaders hate more than anything else is just drama among the ranks. It wastes time, it blows out our productivity, it's the worst. And so you are constantly looking for people who know how to get along. And studies have shown that people who know how to get along with other people, who are just positive, who just are smiling, who people like to be around, those people get promoted faster than the ones with the highest GPA, or even the ones who can do the job faster or better than somebody else. Sometimes you're willing to settle for less on the ability just because a person is somebody who can get along with other people. Great companies will always find a place for those people who have a positive attitude, who know how to get along, not just with the boss, but with each other, and those who are just enjoyable to be around. Now, those are those four things, and again, I have shared these with my kids. They have worked them, and I have seen God's favor on them all of their lives, and it'll be the same for your child. But let me give you just a word of warning here. You say, oh, this is great. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to hand it to them when they go to their first job interview or on the first day that they go to their first job. Well, that might be great as a reminder, but if that's the first time that they hear about these things, man, you have blown it. They need to have this instilled in them way before that. These are things that take years to instill. And you can develop this as part of your family culture. So the best time to start these things is today, no matter what your child, what their age is. Help them to develop these habits because it will make a huge difference. Teach them to always do a task better than what's expected. Teach them the value of not just showing up on time, but to show up ahead of time. And teach them to show respect, not only for those who are in authority, but for every person that they come in contact with. And these four habits will help your child to be tremendously blessed and have the best advantage over everybody else that they're working alongside in this highly competitive world. And I want to tell you something. Not only will it work for your child, it'll work for you as well. So I hope that was helpful to you today. And if you like this video, I encourage you to go to my website at KirbyAndersen.com and to sign up for my email newsletter. But take some time today. And if you aren't already doing these things, start by cultivating these 4 habits, these characteristics, these values within your kids. Because if you do, you're helping them to live better, to love more, and ultimately to leave the legacy that they really desire and that you desire for them as well. Hope you have an awesome week, my friend. Stay on target.